Hello, my name is Danielle Dill. In this video, I want to tell you about a study we performed in which we investigated if AI-powered speech-to-text and text-to-speech techniques can limit the interviewer bias in sensory and consumer research. In sensory and consumer research, panelists sometimes evaluate products in an interview with a human interviewer. This can lead to an interviewer bias, which is a systematic error in the data collected with the human interviewer. Answers given by panelists can be inaccurate for several reasons. For example, a panelist might give an answer that will lead to a positive evaluation of a product, which is also called an acquiescence bias. A panelist might also give an answer that they think is socially desirable, which is called a social desirability bias. Another bias has to do with the effect of a health claim, which can increase the liking of a product. A potential way to reduce these biases is to use speech-to-text and text-to-speech techniques instead of a human interviewer. With these techniques, a computer will speak to the panelists to ask the questions, and the panelists will answer the computer with their voice. In order to test whether these techniques can be used to limit the interviewer bias, two conditions were compared. One was a condition using speech-to-text and text-to-speech techniques, and the other was an interview with a human interviewer. In both conditions, the panelists rated a sweet snack called Fruitella strawberry and were asked about their food consumption behavior. The same product was presented twice. One was called the regular variant and the other one was called the new variant. The new variant was claimed to be healthier, but in reality, both variants were exactly the same. A within-subject design was used, so the panelists participated in both conditions and had a period of at least 10 days between the two to avoid a carryover effect. The survey with the speech-to-text and text-to-speech techniques was created with Acquiescence software. The questions were read out loud and the panelists answered by using their voice. After the question was read out loud by the computer, the microphone would automatically listen for an answer from the panelist. For the condition with the interview, the same questions were asked, but in this case by a human interviewer via a video call. The study is focused on three aspects. The panelists evaluated the product liking on several attributes, and with this we could test for the acquiescence bias and the effect of a health claim. Thereafter, the panelists were asked which of the two products they preferred the most, and with this we could test for the social desirability bias and also for the effect of a health claim. At the end, the panelists answered questions about their food consumption behavior, and with this we could also test for the social desirability bias. So let's start with liking. Liking was used to test the acquiescence bias and the effect of a health claim. The panelists rated the products on several attributes. These were appearance, odor, taste, texture, and aftertaste. And for all these attributes, we asked for the overall opinion rated on a 9-point scale. For taste, texture, and aftertaste, there was another question, which was measured on a 5-point just about right scale. For taste, this was sweetness. For texture, this was softness or firmness. And for aftertaste, this was intensity. Now, there were also questions about the general opinion, which consisted of the overall liking of the product measured on a 9-point scale, and questions about the purchase intent and recommendation intent as on a 5-point scale. The answers to these questions were used to calculate a satisfaction score, and the higher this score, the higher the satisfaction with the product. The total score could range between a minimum score of 2 and a maximum score of 64. To test the acquiescence bias, thus if a panelist might give an answer that will lead to a positive evaluation of a product, we compared the mean overall satisfaction score of the speech-to-text and text-to-speech condition with the mean overall satisfaction score of the interview condition. This graph shows the overall satisfaction score for the regular variant. The y-axis shows the mean overall satisfaction score, and the x-axis shows the two conditions, with the speech-to-text and text-to-speech condition in green and the interview condition in yellow. So here you can see that there is no significant difference between the two conditions. This graph shows the same as the previous one, but then for the new variant. Here you do see a significant difference between the two conditions. The mean overall satisfaction score was significantly higher in the interview condition than in the speech-to-text and text-to-speech condition. To test the effect of a health claim, we compared the mean overall satisfaction score of the new variant and the regular variant. The graph shows the overall satisfaction score for the condition with the speech-to-text and text-to-speech techniques. The y-axis shows the mean overall satisfaction score, and the x-axis shows the two products, with the new variant in green and the regular variant in yellow. Here you can see that there is no significant difference between the two variants. This graph shows the same as the previous one, but then for the interview condition, and here you can see that there is a significant difference between the two products. The new variant has a significantly higher overall satisfaction score than the regular variant. The results showed a significantly higher satisfaction score in the interview condition compared to the speech-to-text and text-to-speech condition. However, this was only true for the new variant. The results also showed a significantly higher satisfaction score for the new variant compared to the regular variant. This was only true for the interview condition. The results therefore provide support for acquiescence bias in interviews with a human interviewer when panelists are evaluating healthy products. In addition, they give support for the effect of a health claim when panelists are interviewed by a human interviewer. The effect of a health claim and the acquiescence bias seem to be intertwined with each other. Interaction with a human interviewer on its own or a health claim on its own, it does not seem to be enough to increase the liking of a product. And this can be explained by the social desirability bias. When panelists evaluate a product that they know is not that healthy, they might not feel a big need to give a positive evaluation. But when they evaluate a product that they think is healthier, they might feel a bigger need to give a positive evaluation. And this is especially during an interview with a human interviewer. This is because they want to gain social approval and avoid social disapproval of the interviewer. Then you would see a bigger difference between the two conditions. The study also measured preference. This was used to test the social desirability bias and the effect of a health claim. So the panelists were asked which variant they preferred. So let's say if the panelists had no preference, the number of panelists that preferred the regular variant would be equal to the number of panelists that preferred the new variant. This is what we call the expected model. The observed model consists of the actual number of panelists that preferred the regular variant or the new variant. We compared both models in the two conditions. The graph shows here the two models in the condition with the speech-to-text and text-to-speech techniques. The y-axis shows the frequency, so the amount of times a variant was preferred by a panelist, and the x-axis shows the two models, with the expected model on the left and the observed model on the right. The green color represents the new variant and the yellow color represents the regular variant. Here you can see that there's no significant difference between the two models. This graph shows the same as the previous one, but for the interview condition. Here you can see that the observed model was significantly different from the expected model. In the observed model, there was a higher difference or a higher preference for the new variant. So the results did not show a preference for a specific variant in the speech-to-text and text-to-speech condition, but the results did show a preference for the new variant in the interview condition. And the results therefore provide support for social desirability bias and the effect of a health claim when panelists are interviewed by a human interviewer. This can be explained by the desire of the panelists to gain social approval and to avoid social disapproval of the researcher. The panelists see that choosing the healthier variant is social desirable behavior, and therefore they would rather pick the healthier variant. The last aspect that the study focused on was food consumption behavior, and this was used to test the social desirability bias. The panelists were presented with 3 questions and 3 statements. For example, how often do you eat sweet snacks? And it is important for me that snacks contain vitamins and minerals. The answers to these questions and statements were used to calculate an unhealthiness score. Depending on the answer options, the scale ranged from low to high or high to low, and the lowest score represented the healthiest answer option, and the highest score represents the unhealthiest answer option. Thus, the higher the score, the unhealthier the food consumption behavior was of the panelists. The total score could range between a minimum score of 6 and a maximum score of 42. This graph shows the unhealthiness score for the 2 conditions. The y-axis shows the mean unhealthiness score, and the x-axis shows the 2 conditions, with the speech-to-text and text-to-speech condition in green and the interview condition in yellow. As you can see, there is no difference between the 2 conditions. And therefore, the results do not provide evidence for the social desirability bias. The explanation of why the results do not provide evidence for this has to do with the design of the study. The panelists participated in both conditions, and they were told they received a regular variant and a new variant. In addition, they were also told that there were 4 versions of the new variant and that they received one of those 4. They might have assumed that in the first condition they received one version of the new variant, and in the other condition they received another version of the new variant. They may have realized that the questions were the same, but they still gave different answers since they thought that they were rating different products. But for the questions about food consumption behavior, this was not the case, and they might have tried to match their answers in both conditions. And the results actually show support for this explanation because they show that the order of the conditions significantly influenced the unhealthiness score. So panelists who did the interview condition first had a significantly lower unhealthiness score than panelists who did the speech-to-text and text-to-speech condition first. Since the panelists might have tried to match their answers in both conditions, the effect of a social desirability bias could not be detected. In conclusion, the use of a human interviewer in sensory and consumer research can create an interviewer bias in the results. Using speech-to-text and text-to-speech techniques can limit this bias and will therefore lead to more truthful and more accurate answers.